I didn't come here to live my life afraid.
Mm.
You know, like I came here to live my life and to let love in. And I think that that's where I'm at right now, is like, I find times in my life where I am still pushing love away. I'm pushing love away. Oh, if I let that in too much, it'll be taken away, or it'll hurt, or whatever. And it's not even like conscious thoughts coming through. It's just like it's my body's own way of protecting me, and that's beautiful. And I am here to open and soften and open and let life in. And with that comes the intensity. And so how much of that can I allow? How much of that can I hold?
Welcome to the Deeper Awareness Podcast, where we delve into the depths of our inner selves, uncovering authenticity and transformation. Join us for enlightening conversations on breathwork, self-discovery, and the profound journey within. I'm your host, Josh Perry, joined by the delightful Hannah Oxley. Let's begin.
Hey guys, it's Hannah. On today's episode, Josh and I sit down with Andrea Freemyer. We both met her while getting certified for breathwork, so it felt like such a gift to hear her incredible story of how she found deeper awareness. Andrea has a passion for guiding people back home to themselves using breathwork and incorporating her love and awe of nature and Mother Earth. I can't wait for you to feel just how heart-centered she is. Take a listen.
I mean, part of it was my own seeking at first. It was very much like I've always had a big heart and wanted to help people. Like I truly just had this deep desire to help people, and noticed that a lot of people in my life, close family members and just other people in my circle, friends, were having a really hard time with life. And there was a lot of depression, there was a lot of anxiety, there was just a lot of that kind of stuff. And so I decided to go to college, and I wouldn't even really say that it was pushed on me by much. It was really a decision that I made. I love learning. I love being challenged in that way. And there was a part of me too that was like, well, this is the next step. Like, this is what we do next. But certainly wasn't pushed by parents or anything like that. In fact, I was the first one in my family to have a college degree. So I decided to go to school and was very much like, I don't really know what I'm here for. I don't really know what the purpose of this is, but I wanted to help people. So psychology made sense. So that's what I started with, was just trying to understand human behavior and why there's so much suffering, and really had a desire to figure out how I could, I want to learn how I can help these people. And I did a undergrad, during my undergrad, I did an internship at a psychiatric hospital local to me. And I was like, wow, I can't do this. Like, the system, I saw like the ins and outs of like behind the scenes and how things were working. And I think I went to school with a very naive mind. I think a lot of us do, of like, yeah, I'm gonna like be able to change the world, and so much is gonna be unveiled during this experience. And so much was unveiled, but it just wasn't what I was expecting it to be. There was just so much sickness, and we were just perpetuating that. It was like this hamster wheel of like, oh, come in and we'll help you and we'll medicate you and we'll pump you up full of drugs. And then your insurance will be up. And so then you have to go back out, and then you'll get arrested, and then you'll come back. And it was just like this really sick system that really, I was like, I am not, the answers I'm looking for are not here. And that's when I decided to continue to go to school and get a PhD in neuroscience, because I was like, if I can't get what I need here, maybe if I understand what's going on underneath all of the things, then I can help people. And so again, it was just kind of like my own personal pursuit to try to help people in my life that were having a difficult time. And during my PhD training, I learned so much about the brain, so much about behavior, so much about myself. And one of the things that I really discovered, like once I got done with school, like once I had this achievement that was like, well, there's really no next level. Like, what do I do next? Was I realized I was so out of touch and disconnected from myself. So on this pursuit to like fix and help and support other people, I was like, I had lost myself. And about a year and a half before I graduated, I got pregnant and had been married for several years. The number doesn't even matter at this point, but I had been married, and my basically like a year before my son was born, our marriage had started to just be really not a great relationship. It was just toxic in a lot of ways. And there was a lot of like, for me personally, especially after I got pregnant, I was like, I can't keep living my life this way. And especially when I had the space after school, I was like, okay, truly, like there's something that has to happen. My son was about a year old at that time, and I just was like, I have to take better care of myself. And so I just really then went on this journey to help myself to discover who I was. And that started with simple things like just exercise and eating right and doing meditation every once in a while. And what I noticed after I graduated and I started a job at the university doing research science, was that so many other people that I was working with were also really struggling. Like it was like this very much like we're working ourselves until we're sick. We're all overwhelmed. We're burnt out. We're like, there's so much competition and things like that in academia. I think there are in a lot of jobs. But in that environment, I was really feeling it. And so many people were just so unhappy. And so I decided I was like, I'm going to bring everything I'm learning to this place, to academic science. And so I started doing these presentations, like how we can find peace and like calm in the chaos, and just teaching different tools that I had been learning. But again, personal life was just falling apart. And I really was on this journey to help myself. And in that, my relationship just grew further and further apart because that was not the path that he was on. And after my son's 4th birthday, so I'd been working at that job for a while. It was just about a month after my son turned 4, things had gotten really bad. And my husband ended up taking his life. So speaking of things that happen, like where we're just kind of like going along, trying to put all the pieces together and make things work. And then something big happens to derail us, or in my case, now from where I sit almost 4 years later, opened my eyes to this life that I had been refusing to live for so long. And so that was a very, very difficult time. And I'm in this place now where I can see so much of the gift of this whole experience that I went through, which is really, really beautiful. But there's still pain. Like there's still hurt here, and there's still grief, like waves of grief that come up. I have a 8-year-old son now, and he really struggles. And so holding him through this and being on this journey alongside him is probably one of the hardest things in my personal journey now, is just knowing how to help and navigate him and hold him through his experience of grief and loss, and just not understanding while I'm holding myself and moving through and doing all of the things in my own life. So it was really that big experience that was the catalyst to where I am today. And so again, that's like I'm thankful for that. So much gratitude for where I am now. But it's been quite a journey to get to this place. And something that happened after his death, very shortly after, was I have always had like a very deep connection to nature. It's always been like, I didn't really know why, but I had always been drawn to it. I always felt safer when I was there, when I was surrounded by woods or mountains or whatever. And that morning, the morning that I was leaving my house after this happened, the sun was rising and I just looked up at the sunrise, and it was like the most beautiful sunrise. And I just remember hearing, by call it whatever you want, a presence that's bigger than me, Andrea, you have to feel this. And that was very different than anything than the way I had dealt with other things, other hard experiences that I had been through in my life. Was just, to distract and avoid and throw myself into school or into being a mom or drugs or whatever it was. And so this just came through so very clearly for me. And it wasn't until probably 2 months later that I really, after not being in shock anymore and moving through all the like things you have to do when something like that happens, just like going through the motions, I really was in a place where I could allow myself to do that, to start the process of doing that. And breath was really something that was really big for me, to help me reconnect to myself, to find safety in my body, and allow myself to feel the pain of what I had been through. So I don't know if that was an intro. That was a lot. But yeah, that's what has led me to where I am today. So
had you found breathwork before that event, or was it after?
No, it was about 2 months after. And yeah, it was something that I experienced. It was just kind of like showed up, and I did the practice, and only about like 5 minutes in or so, I was like, whoa, like this is, because I was so raw. That's also what that experience did for me. It opened me up in a way that I couldn't close. Like it was just like the pain was so much, and there was just so much that I was holding that I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't not feel some of that stuff that was there. And so the rawness that I felt through that breathwork practice was so much that I was only able to do it for about 5 minutes. But in that 5 minutes, I felt my body in a way that I hadn't for so long. And that starting, or that just like glimpse of connection to myself was huge. And it was like, that was the thing. I was like, this is the missing piece. All of that education, all of it was so great and so helpful for my mind, but I couldn't problem solve my way out of everything. It's certainly not this experience. And so it was the gift of the breath, of reconnecting me back to my body, that was really the start of discovering who I am and getting me to where I am today.
That's beautiful.
Thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't remember your question, Josh. Did I answer it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said, what do we have to understand about your life to understand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was a good way of answering.
Yeah. And like ever since then, it's just been this journey of remembering who I am and who I've always been, but I had just forgotten. It's really easy to, especially in this culture, in this society, to like compartmentalize things, right? Like to just I'm just going to like put this thing over here and I'm going to put this over here and put a little bow on it. And like, I'll come back to it later and I'll, and I think that, no, I know from my own experience that when we do that, that we're pushing life away. Like we're pushing the beauty that is here for us away. And so a repeating thing that is constantly coming through to me is like to soften into life, to be receptive, to open up, to receive everything that's here for me. And that certainly does not always feel good. It doesn't mean that it's always, full of joy and happiness and excitement. I mean, there's a lot of sadness and grief and pain and heartache that comes with that. But that's like the flip side of like, I love so deeply because I've felt through deep pain, and so it's just this knowing, like deep, deep knowing now that it's all part of it. And when we let all of it in, joy's the product of that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe we came here to experience the whole spectrum. And the more we experience to one side, it allows us to experience even more of that joy, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I believe we chose to do this. We chose to experience, but why not feel it all?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it before, Josh and I, of being in a coffin and just like, you can't feel much when you're just in this like small little box. But as soon as you break through, it's like, oh my God, I can feel all of the things, just anything.
Yeah.
All the way from joy to grief, anything in between.
So, can we talk a little bit about grief?
Sure.
This is like one of those subjects most humans are really good at avoiding. And my sister lost her husband in a small plane crash about 4 years ago. And back then I was really numb.
Mm-hmm.
And what we try to do with people that are grieving is get them back to normal as quick as possible. And what struck me is that this concept of grieving in a society that doesn't do emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, what has grief taught you?
What has grief not taught me? I mean, yeah, like it's shown me allowing myself to feel the weight of grief, because it's like a rock. It's like a boulder. There's a heaviness to it that is just it's just, unless you feel it, it's hard to understand. But it's like, it's just this deep, deep, deep heaviness that lives within you. And of course it's energy, right? Like it's the energy, it's the weight, it's the pain of not having what you thought you were going to have, right? Like it's the loss of that future. It's the loss of a life. It's the loss of just so much. And so in so many ways, I mean, there's so many lessons, but like it has shown me what I'm can I say fucking capable of, like of holding, like to be able to hold that heaviness and that weight and move through it, or let it move through me, not all at once, but like to let those layers and stuff be peeled away and move through me has just shown me that I'm capable of holding so much more than I ever thought. Because if somebody would have told me this is what's going to happen to you and this is what you're going to go on to do with your life, and I'm like, no, like that would crush me. Like that would be the end. There were so many days after it happened that I thought that it was, you know, it was like, I can't do this. How am I ever going to go back to living a life? How am I ever? I mean, there was just so much questioning of how I was ever going to move on from this and just make things work. Like in general, like being able to be out on my own and you know, just take care of my son and do all the things. But it's shown me my strength. It's shown me my courage. It's shown me the frailty that is human life. It's shown me that when we love, we are taking a risk, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Yeah, like it's opened me up to noticing my life, to noticing the beauty that is all around me all the time. Like, even when things feel really hard. Yeah, like there's so much gratitude for this aliveness that I feel now every day. And I still get stuck and I still, you know, have shitty stuff. And I mean, it's still hard. Like there's still difficulties, but it's like, it's so much easier for me to soften into the ache of that comes with this aliveness, like to not push it away, to not numb it. It's like, no, like I know. And part of this is being, you know, on the other side of the initial feelings of all of this, because again, at that time, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Like, it was like one breath at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time. And then it just starts to get lighter and it starts to get lighter and it's still here. There's still parts of that here. And there's this like deep love and deep gratitude and deep appreciation for this life and all that comes with it. And it's like, what, you know, once you experience like this, just like your analogy, like the coffin thing, like once you experience all of this, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to this place where for moments, sure, but like I don't want to go back to this place where I don't know what's on the other side of that. So yeah, I think it's like the biggest thing is it's just taught me to just fully land in my life, to just be in my life, knowing that no moment, no feeling, no sensation is permanent, that it's all fluid, that it's ever changing. And rather, and in knowing that and softening into that, the resistance fades. Like there's less resistance to what's right in front of me. So like, say I'm going through a difficult time or something, and there's like so much resistance, like, why is this happening? Like I shouldn't, you know, all the things. If I can soften into my life and remember that none of this is permanent, the resistance fades. The suffering isn't there anymore. It still feels hard, still hurts, it's still real, but I'm not clinging or pushing it away, you know?
And then it's also such a gift of experiencing everything you've experienced. Do you feel like it's helped you to achieve that goal of helping so many people? Because now you have just all these other tools and, you know, you can relate to people and really understand what they're going through. So do you feel when you set out on this journey to help heal everyone, do you feel like you're there? Or you're like, what are you doing now?
Yeah, so it's definitely, again, like the whole concept of holding space, like just being able to witness somebody else in their pain without, because when I started way back when I was going to school and I was like, I just want to help people. I just want to, it was like I wanted to just like come in and like scoop people up and be like, here, go do this. And I tried that for a while. I tried to just be like, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Like just if you just do this, it'll be better. But something that my son teaches me over and over and over again is that we are all on our own journey. And I can model for him, I can teach him, I can say things to him, I can, whatever. But the biggest gift that I can give him is just to be here, to be here, to be present, to hold space for him, to move through what he's moving through and be a safe space to land. And that is what I aim to do with anybody that comes into my space. Whether that's somebody that's working with me, somebody that comes to a retreat, somebody that just, that I meet somewhere, like that's what I desire to be, to just allow people to be fully themselves and to meet them where they are and show them that they, it's like putting the power, giving them their power back, and not by me doing anything except for just reminding them what they're capable of, reminding them that they know, reminding them, just inviting people back home. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is, a big value of mine is to be in integrity with what I am sharing with people. So if I'm inviting somebody through a process, and maybe it's a one-to-one client or something, I'm inviting them through a process. I'm like, I know, and I think that they can feel, I've had this reflected back to me many times, like, oh, you've held yourself through this, different experiences, right? But when it comes down to it, the sensation and the emotions there's a lot of similarities across people and the human experience of them, regardless of the circumstance. And so it's like being able to hold somebody as they go through their process. I feel like I have a deep capacity to be able to do that because I have held myself through those things and I've received support, of course. So yeah, it's definitely impacted me in so many ways, and just how I show up and that I just, to be real for people too, and not pretend like it's easy, not pretend like that we're not on a journey together, and so yeah, there's been a lot of people that have came. It's wild how I've had many people reach out to me and share their experience with me, and I'm like, wow, going something very similar to me. Or there's been a suicide and close in their radar, and it's something that's really impacting them, and they had no idea about my past or anything like that. And so there's been like these people come through my world that it is something that you feel like nobody gets. And then they're like, oh, you do get this, you do know where I'm coming from. And sometimes just that alone is so healing for people, to know that they're not alone. So yeah, that's been huge.
I've had 2 experiences in the last week where I felt like I was the only one. Definitely in the first experience, and it felt so nuanced and so like one off that I just kept it inside. And then I saw a post on Facebook with somebody else describing a similar situation,
Mm.
and grief came up, and I was just crying. I felt so seen, and I really didn't understand this idea of being seen
Mm.
until the pause program. It Even that phrasing I had never heard of, and to discover. So Hannah and I have been diving into universal human needs,
Mm.
and to find out that that is a human need that we have to be seen.
Yeah.
And so for you, because we'll talk about this at the end with how people can um, interact with you and whatnot. But when I experienced one of your breathwork sessions, I felt that same thing.
Mm.
That I knew that you had gone there with yourself, that you had felt so deeply into that, and that it was such a safe place inside of you for you, that I knew I could go there with you.
Mm. So
It's a real
good.
gift. It's
Yeah.
such a gift.
Yeah.
So with all of this, I'm staying with my mom right now, and I was talking to her about needs. And in our last episode, Hannah and I went over this, but it's almost like we don't know their needs until someone says, "Hey, are you needing that?" And then
Mm.
most often our response is, "Well, I've gone 50 years without it. Why do I need it now?"
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then once somebody offers that space for you to experience it, it it's part of coming home.
Mm.
Does that feel true? That it's like, yeah, you're supposed to fit into all of these crevices, all of these hurts, all of these wounds, take up all of this space, fill them up, feel into them, that they're all part of you, that's home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. And I also, feel that that's like integration, right? Like that's like this piece that I feel like, I don't know, this isn't going on to another topic, but it's bringing up something that's important. Like there's so much in the like spiritual community. There's a lot of we do have needs. Like there's this like acknowledgement of our needs, and let this thing fill you up. Let this thing, maybe if you do this, then if you do this, then you'll feel that. So to me, it's like really bringing in this, society, the like toxic masculine society that so many of us get into this work to leave behind, is almost like being like recycled into the spiritual space of like that we are not enough, that we are not enough as we are. And so I think that it comes back to that. It comes back to like this belief that we deserve to get our needs met, that it's normal for us to need things, that we are whole as we already are, and we have everything that we need, and we were meant to be in connection with other people and have this. There's times where maybe we're not able to access that thing. Maybe we can't see ourselves, right? And so we need somebody else to be that mirror for us, to reflect to us who we are. It doesn't mean that you didn't have the ability, like that you're not inherently already good enough or home or whatever the word is that you want to use. but it's like sometimes this connection with other people, sometimes we just need somebody to remind us that we're already whole, that like we're already enough, that we're already there, that we're already worthy, that we don't need to do anything to remember that, like, meaning like something outside of ourselves, right? Like there's nothing outside of us that can remind us of that, except for, the connections with other people that are being that for us when we can't access it. Did that answer your question? I don't really know. Kind of feel like
so we need each other and we're whole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear about your retreats. I know you have a big one coming up, and I know you have other ones coming up. Can you just talk about like what intention, is there like a commonality across?
Yeah. So the business that we have is called Elemental Wellness, and it is, so when I got into this work, again, bringing back like my love of nature, I have always, speaking of mirrors to ourselves, right? Like the external world, the beautiful thing about nature is that it's this like unbiased, like just exists as it is. It changes with the seasons. It's that example of this ever dynamic, ever changing, fluid thing that we can witness, that reminds us of who we are. To me, I see nature as such a beautiful mirror. And so I had really early on in doing like the breathwork stuff, in bringing, like we bring like themes into sessions and all of that. I was like, I really want to do an elements session or like workshop series where we're connecting to these different elements. And so earth, fire, water, air are a big part of like what my business was kind of built around. Like, to me, those are like our ancestors. It's what we're made of. It's where we came from. It's, the simplest form of who we are. And so every retreat that we do is focused around a specific element. And so we're doing essentially like series of these different retreats. And we've done a water, air, and earth retreat so far, since we started doing them with these themes. And our next one is fire in Hawaii. And really what the intention around these retreats is like really being able to invite the people that come to notice that element as it exists outside of them. So what do you see? What qualities does fire remind you of? Like, what do you see when you look into a flame or a campfire or whatever? And to have that for them to then be able to see that those same qualities also exist within themselves. And so the one centered around the element of fire is really about just connecting back to their power, to remembering, again, it's all about remembering, but just remembering who they are and what they're capable of. And so we actually chose Hawaii because of the volcanoes and that, the earth, that the core of the earth is just this burning hot center. And we also have this like burning hot center within ourselves. And some of us have just like a tiny little ember, with maybe some ashes over it or whatever. And so the goal or the intention of our time together is to really just like fan that flame and reignite that fire within each individual that's there within themselves, and just connect to that. And I will also say that with this specific retreat, it's really wild, the situation that is going on in Hawaii right now. So yeah, you guys know that there's been fires on the island of Maui, and a whole town was just completely devastated. And it's a town where, there's a lot of people, a lot of people that have lived there for a really long time. And there's a lot of fear that people are going to come in, like developers and stuff are going to come in and buy up this land, and then they're not going to be able to rebuild, and they'll be competing with all of that. And so we've really, and then if you watch the news or different media outlets, there's been a lot of like, we don't want tourists here, like we need to heal, we need to rebuild, we need to do all of this. And then there's other people who are like, yes, we need tourists because this is what helps our economy and all of this stuff. And so it's been a very interesting thing from our perspective, or from where just what we're planning on doing. And so we're collaborating with different people that are local to Hawaii that are going to come in and be a part of our retreat. That's another thing that we really like to do, is bring people in that are local to that land, that can come in and teach us the culture of where we're going. And we're not just coming there to like take over and have this experience. Like, we want you to come in and share with us the richness of your culture, and how fire has been used in sacred rituals there for years and years and years, and just really share some of that like ancient wisdom with us. So we've been in collaboration with a few different people in Hawaii, and recently have been having conversations with them and like really considering, like, should we do this? Like, should we host this retreat there? And we're on the Big Island for our retreat, which is different, obviously, but it's still like, we're like bringing a group and renting out this big space and like doing all of this stuff, but also really want to respect everything that's going on, because that is what is so important to us. It's like being in right relationship with other humans, with the land, with all of that. And so we've been in conversations with these people, and they're like, yes, come, you are in integrity, you are in right relationship. Even the fact that we're considering, reaching out from this place and just asking, like, is this something that we should be doing? But I think the thing, like the universal thing that we get to come back to is like, we need more connection. We need, in a world that is just so deeply disconnected, like, connection is rebuilding that connection, coming back to that connection, coming back to who we are, coming back home to ourselves is just so important. And we can start that, at the individual level, and then coming together in a community, like at a retreat, where we're going to come in honor and respect of where we're going, is what is needed. And so we've just gotten that message back multiple times of just like, yes, come and do this work and keep this mission alive, because that's what's important and that's what's needed. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, because it's just been an interesting thing to have all of that unfold, and want to not pretend like nothing's happening, and just because we were like, well, do we even like promote this? Like, do we want to continue like promoting this, because it's about the element of fire, and it's just, there's just interesting things going on about that. And I don't know that you guys need to include this in the podcast.
No, I think
this part, but
great, because like you said, there's so much going on in the news. Like, this is what people need to hear. This is important, like, to have perspective like this.
Yeah. And it's just so like, the media is so, what's the word? Like myopic. Like it's like, there's this one view, and it's either this or it's so like black and white. And that's just not the way that it actually is. Like, there's a lot that we're not hearing about, and there's a lot that we're not seeing. And yeah. So I'm really grateful that we had already planned to work with these people and had created these relationships with people there. Like, in fact, one of the things that this woman wants to do, one of the women who's going to be a part of this wants to do, is have all the people that are coming to the retreat hop on a Zoom call. And she's going to talk to us about, like, getting our energy in a place where we can come in with intention to this sacred land, to have like this, we talk about like co-nourishment all of the time. And that's really what it's about when we're doing like earth-based work. It's like, how can I give back to something that has just constantly been taken from? Like, how can we be in a reciprocal relationship to one another? And so really making that very clear to everybody that's coming, and kind of like setting the stage and the intention for what energy we're coming into, and what the energy is of the environment that we're stepping into as well. So that feels really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And so when's that?
January 9th to the 14th.
Nice.
Andrea, when you said you were checking with them,
Mm-hmm.
and that reminded me of when I was doing I was being somatically coached, and the coach was saying, as we were starting, she said, "Is there anything else that I could provide that would create a little bit more safety?" And I checked in, and I was like, that question created so much safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what you're doing with these people. You're checking with them. It shows that they're important.
Yeah.
That it's not just like all these white people are going to show up and do our thing. We're going to do the tourism. And I went to Kauai, and I was the white tourist with no understanding and no comprehension of the respect and the sacredness of those lands. And so hearing you speak, like, I'm learning a lot just of how we can honor the earth. And I would say it's all sacred, right? There.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love to hear, because I see your pictures with when you and your family go to lakes, and you're on the paddleboard, or you're with the creeks or the trees, and I'd love to hear like how you experience nature. Like what's that tangibly, or what's that intentionally, as you go there and you're just, is it just a presence, just a beingness, or could you describe, does my question make sense?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. So early on, like, I'll just go back a little bit, because again, I've always had this connection to, like, I've had this calling, or like, I just feel more when I'm in nature, very different than when I'm in big groups of people. But just early on in my process through grief, I would get to this place where I couldn't, I would be, my mind would be very like, you can't do this. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're fucking everything up. And you're like, how are you going to get through? Like, all of that stuff would come up, and I would just be like, thank God I had a support system. Mom, can you watch Oliver? I gotta go. And I would just go to the woods, and I would just lay there, and I would feel so held, like so held. And so like this overwhelming sense of being alone would just go away. Like, I'd be like, I am not alone. Like, look at all of these, like the trees, and how many, like the abundance of life that is all around me when I'm in nature. And just feel that and see that there was like there's this clarity still that just comes through for me when I step into the woods or the mountains, or I'm sitting next to a creek, and I'm like really paying attention, right? Because so many of us are surrounded by this stuff all of the time. And I'm even like, I live in the city, and I think I shared this with you, Josh, but like I go for walks all the time, and I have to drive a little ways to get to the woods, but this is an old neighborhood that I live in, and there are so many old, ancient, wise trees. And I have such a relationship with them. Like I notice them, I stop and I pay attention. And I was walking with my partner a while back now, and I'm just like, how do people not see this? Like how, like the intricacy, like the details of the bark, and feel the energy. And I know from my own experiences, because they're not open to it. They're not paying attention. They're not stopping long enough to notice. And so that's just something that I really feel when I'm in nature. And I notice too where I'm at. Like it's a huge check-in for me, because if I go out on a walk or to the woods or to the mountains or whatever, and I'm not, my breath isn't taken away, or I'm not like noticing what's around me, I'm like, okay, stop, take some breaths, and open your eyes, open your heart. Like it's such it's like I can monitor my energy that way, of like just like noticing like, wow, you really haven't been in the present moment much lately, because you're just, kind of like caught up in the getting from here to there on your walk, instead of like really noticing what's around. So that's a big part of it. Like it softens me, it opens me up, it reminds me of the beauty that's all around me, of the gift of life. And yeah, it also just reminds me that I am so small in comparison to this, just much. It's like there's like, I even just walking out of my house to the street and looking up at the sky, like my perspective shifts, even if just a little bit, depending on where I'm at, where my headspace is and all of that. But like, it just, there's an openness, there's a spaciousness that I feel when I'm outside. There's a reminder that it's not about being perfect. It's just about being, it's about that there's nothing that I have to do, that I can just be, and I can notice, and I can feel, and I can receive, and I can give. And I mean, it's just like, there's so much that happens when I'm in nature, and just connecting to, again, connecting to the elements, which are all around us when we're in the natural world, and feeling the energies of those things, and remembering that, like, for example, water, you can watch the river and see parts of it that are moving really fast, but then you see parts of it that are really still, and you can just feel, if you're paying attention, you can feel the differences in those energies. And like, oh, I have the ability to basically wreak havoc with this energy, or I can also pull it in, and I can just be here and receive and feel, and let life flow through me, rather than feeling like I need to go through and like take it out or something like that, so yeah, it's such a beautiful mirror, and I see myself for who I truly am, not for who I'm trying to convince myself that I am or that I'm not. It's like there's so much truth in nature.
Wow.
And then with the changing of seasons right now, how are you transitioning? Is there any sort of rituals you do, or welcoming the last few years I've been like just embracing the feeling of hibernation. Like, this is time to slow down. When I see people just still trying to hustle, like, well, take it slow. Like, this is a time to reflect and just notice, like you said, notice your surroundings and kind of take inventory. And so I'm just curious with the change of the seasons, how that's happening for you.
Yeah, for sure. I love the seasons. Like it's all, no matter what season we're moving away from and into, it's like, it's a period of transition. So it's just another reminder, right? That like nothing stays the same, and that we are just like the seasons outside of us, and the cycles of growth and death and rebirth and all this stuff. Like, we have those seasons within ourselves too. So I think, that's a reminder that we get to see with the seasons. But it's also, when you're connected to nature, to the natural world, you remember that so much more easily, or easier, that when you're going through a cycle within yourself, like maybe you have this big burst of creativity and doing all of these things, and it just feels really aligned and really good, and then the next week you're like, God, I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to rest. I just want to go inward. I just want to hibernate, or whatever it is. Cool. Listen to that. Like, that's your body speaking to you, because we're not meant to just be going all the time. And it's just, it happens on a bigger level than with the seasons, right? It's like, okay, this is the time of the year where we are shifting out of this, like, where we get to express so much gratitude for the harvest, whether that be a literal harvest or the growth and expansion that we've experienced over the past couple of seasons. Like, we get to like really be in this place of celebration for where we're at right now, and also, with fall, like letting things fall away that aren't working, like whatever it is that, because a lot of times we have this path or this goal or this thing that we're working toward, and we have a certain way in which we want it to unfold, but maybe we've been in this place of like trying to do this energy of doing, but it's just not quite working out. We can let that stuff fall away and be in this energy of like, okay, I get to slow down. I get to start preparing myself for colder weather, for, slowness, for, just like that, like inward connection. So me and my partner, and we try to bring my son into it when he's interested. But we have like little rituals and stuff that we'll do. We were doing it a while with the moon cycles. So like every full moon and whole moon, we would just have some kind of like ceremony, which doesn't have to be anything big, but just being really intentional. And so we try to do stuff like that. And certainly with the seasons, the same thing happens. We're actually doing a breathwork experience on the autumn equinox to like really celebrate this transition from summer to fall. So partnering with an amazing sound healer in the area that lives on some really beautiful land. We're going to walk the land and just notice what's all around us. So yeah, it's a big part of how we live our lives, is just being connected with what's going on in the natural world.
Love that.
Yeah.
That was so good. So, have you considered doing your own podcast?
No. Why do you ask?
There's a need
Yeah.
for your voice, for your essence to just reverberate outward. And it doesn't have to be a podcast. That was just one.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe someday. It's certainly not anything that's like in my periphery or focus right now. I'm doing this Science of Breathwork course that I'm really excited about, that there's 12 people in there, and it feels really, really good. I'm super excited about that. We have our retreats. I have some one-to-one clients that I'm working with. And a big part of where I'm at in my life right now is, again, coming back to me. I love holding and supporting other people. And, I've been working part-time for a company that's, not necessarily been telling me how to do that, but I've had certain schedules that I've had to follow, and certain, like things that I've prioritized, I guess, over my own passion and dreams and desires. And so I'm kind of in this place of like really navigating what's coming, what I'm doing moving forward. And I don't really know. It's like with the hot air balloon thing, like I feel safe. Like there's like a containment, like there's a container that I'm being held in, and there's so much possibility. So who knows what gets to come through. And maybe a podcast is one of those things that just doesn't feel like it right now. Anyway, so.
Well, thank you for joining us and for sharing your beautiful energy and your wisdom and your stories and the things that you've learned. And is there any final words, anything that you would just want to share with? I know when you started the conversation, it was about bringing what you had learned to the academic world. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So is there anything that if you could like project it out into the world and just have it benefit humans, like what would that one thing be?
Oh my goodness. I think, just welcoming the intensity of life. Like with softness. Like, so not from a place of like, going into I'm feeling this intensity in my experience. What can I do? Right? It's like, no, like, how can you just be with that intensity? And I am saying this with so much awareness of, yes, you need support, and there's nervous system regulation that comes into play here, and trauma is real and all of that. Like, and there is so much beauty in the intensity. Like there's so much. And it's not, I didn't come here to live my life afraid. Like I came here to live my life and to let love in. And I think that that's where I'm at right now, is like, I find times in my life where I am still pushing love away. I'm pushing love away. Oh, if I let that in too much, it'll be taken away, or it'll hurt, or, whatever. And it's not even like conscious thoughts coming through. It's just like, it's my body's own way of protecting me. And that's beautiful. And I am here to open and soften and open and let life in. And with that comes the intensity. And so how much of that can I allow? How much of that can I hold? Yeah, I guess that's it. I was kind of surprised at that answer. So
this came on through. Thanks. And where can people find you if they are interested?
Well, you can find me on Instagram It's andreafreemyer.phd. And then we also have a website, elementalwellnesssanctuary.com. The information is in both places.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Deeper Awareness podcast, where the journey of self-discovery and inner growth continues to unfold. We hope this episode has ignited a spark within you and inspired you to embrace a more conscious and authentic existence by looking within. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to explore the transformative power of breathwork and emotional healing. Continue the conversation and stay connected with us on Instagram. Follow at Deeper Awareness Podcast to receive daily inspiration, valuable tips, and updates on our latest episodes and offerings. We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights from today's show, so feel free to share them in the comments below or tag us in your posts. Your engagement and feedback mean the world to us as we strive to continue to create content that resonates and empowers our incredible community. Together, we can continue exploring the depths of consciousness, fostering genuine connections, and supporting each other on our transformative journeys. This episode is brought to you by You Belong Breathwork, your destination for transformative healing and self-discovery. At You Belong Breathwork, we believe in the power of breath to unlock the deepest parts of ourselves, leading to profound insights and a greater sense of connection and belonging. Whether you're seeking emotional healing, a deeper connection with yourself, or a path to authenticity, our breathwork sessions, retreats, and coaching programs are designed to guide you on this transformative journey. Our experienced facilitators are here to hold space for you as you explore the depths of your consciousness and discover the infinite potential within. Visit youbelongbreathwork.com to explore our offerings and download a free guided breathwork session. Thank you for being a part of our Deeper Awareness community. Stay connected, stay curious, and may you embrace your true essence with love and compassion. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next episode.